Okay, I'd like to inform everyone that myself, Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, and you're joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you are joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you. I do not see anybody, so I'm the only one recording. And then additionally, pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, search committee members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All search committee members in attendance and all members participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. And I see Mr. Jones. I will bring him over.
All right, and also we're looking for our placement agency.
Yes, the J's. I will bring them over as well.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Good day there. Mr. Bob, Mr. Jones. Okay, we're in session, everyone. The announcements have been read. We have remained in session while we were in recess. We're now back in session. We're speaking to Steve J. and Frank J. Steve and Frank, I assume that you're aware of the process, certainly. And we do have a number of questions. We have 8 general topics. There are 4 members of the search committee. Each member will be asking 2 topics, and the other members may ask follow-up questions. We're looking to do this in perhaps an hour. And with that, if you could be seen, and I guess the technology will let you be seen when you speak, perhaps you could introduce yourself, and then we could start with Mr. Jones, starting with our first group of questions.
Yes. Well, good afternoon. My name is Bob Jones. I'm a member of the board here. And I thank you for coming and making a presentation for us. We have some prepared questions here, so I'll just start off just by reading the first one. Can you summarize your experience conducting executive searches of a nature similar to this search? I assume that you got a printout of what the questions were in advance.
No, we don't. Can you hear us all right? Can you see us all right?
Yes.
Well, I can hear you fine. Well,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
We did not get a copy of the questions in advance, but we can answer your questions, no problem at all. I mean, there should not be a reason why we can't answer succinctly any questions that you might ask. And if we don't have the information or the capability, we'll tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
So,
can you summarize your experience conducting executive searches of a nature similar to what this search is, which is for the CEO of the Steamship Authority?
we have not done any searches of any kind for steamship authorities ever. That'd be the first thing I tell you. We absolutely don't. Have not. We have done searches, major searches, and I'll define that, for the major airlines, for the major airports, DFW Airport, Kennedy Airport, LAX Airport, smaller airports throughout the country. But we've done major searches for those types of operations, the major airlines, American, United, Delta, COO level, director level, vice president level, senior vice president level. So we've done extensive searches on the high end. We only do retained. We do not do contingent. Never have, never will not do it. And we are a boutique retained firm that's been in business in aviation, aerospace, and transportation since the 1980s, the mid 80s. So we have a great deal of experience. We have strong relationships worldwide, and we're well known. So, and one of the operations that you four individuals might be most associated with is Cape Air, with Dan Wolf and Linda Markham. We did their chief operating officer search a year ago. So, I mean, and we've done more than one search with them. Now, that's not ferry operation search or ferry regulation search or steamship search, but that is an operation and an organization in your location, in general area that you will know. So I'd be the first to tell you that we're not knowledgeable in the Steamship Authority work at all. But we know search across all industry lines, and we know it specific as retained search at the upper levels. And then we know a considerable number of individuals that would be qualified and capable to do your work. So that gives you a general idea of where we're coming from.
Yeah, we reached out to the airlines, knowing that airlines and boats are not the same thing.
Right.
But when it comes to being, a general manager, in many times, general managers will cross between what they're into now into another general manager's position and CEO because of their expertise in how to run an operation. And you certainly have a big operation. I do know Dan Wolf, and I know who his general manager is there in Hyannis. But the question being, I guess, if you feel that you have candidates that would be interested in cross responsibilities we're a ferry system going from the mainland to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And we have, 10 ships in their ferry system, and it's a very large ferry system in the country. But I don't know how you feel about, addressing this. If you feel that you could, produce candidates for us, and I don't know how you feel about that.
Understand, we do feel, or we would not be talking to you, that we can produce candidates in regard to this particular opportunity. We don't have any problem with that. We have to cross all industry lines within transportation and sometimes outside. We've gotten into international banking, and we've done senior searches from that standpoint. And so, I mean, literally, we've crossed into other industries. Your industry is not that different. We've dealt with plenty of operations that are very similar in style and in nature of the business that you do. So from that standpoint, just as you indicated, we have no problem in being able to do the search. The search process will certainly be the same as any search process that on a retained basis that you're going to go through. And we're going to be able to do it effectively, efficiently, and successfully. We don't have any doubt about it. We have to be sure that we get our parameters down correctly. And we do have your job description as provided by Janice Kennefick. So we believe that's a strong starting point. There's certainly information that we'd want to obtain from you individuals in regard to the opportunity, but the basics are there for us to be able to begin with when this search is contracted and approved and prepared. We don't have any problem with it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's good news, and I think we'll just go right straight forward with the questions and see what you can answer and can't answer or suggest.
Yeah.
Would that be
You bet.
fair? Okay.
Good.
and as it said before, your experience in conducting executive searches, that would obviously be mainly in the aviation industry, but an executive search is an executive search.
Right.
And do you feel that, okay, so, and from there, have you ever experienced in all your searching, having a public face? In other words, we are a semi-governmental body, and we have to conduct all meeting and business in the open. And we have in Massachusetts what's known as the open meeting law, excuse me. And in the open meeting law, it says all business is handled in public. And this meeting here is in public, and we will continue the public side of it, with the candidates that, for the headhunting position. When it gets to interviewing the specific candidates, we'll go underground and everything will be done in executive session. And at that point there, that when we come up to a point of picking, the final contestants, that at that point we have to go into public session. So this is important to the fact of the confidentiality of the candidate. And they should know that if they were selected, and eventually it would be a public session. And obviously, some people would perhaps kick back because they're working for a firm and they don't want to, send waves that they are thinking of taking a different position. And I'm sure that's a standard thing. So that's how, we come. So have you ever had the experience with such a law?
We've dealt with port authorities before. I'm not sure that we've had a specific situation just as yours is. But at the same time, we've come fairly close to it. I'm not trying to mislead in any way, just telling you honestly. We understand where you're coming from. I don't see an issue with it.
Okay. Jim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just as a follow-up point for you, the reason that we found it interesting to talk with you, despite the lack of ferry experience, is that as a transportation entity, we share many of the characteristics that airlines and other transport firms and forms would share. There's logistics, there's scheduling, there's equipment, there's maintenance, there are parts inventories, there's personnel issues, there are issues of culture, there are issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of which are common across transportation industries. And that's why we're delighted to spend some time speaking with you and considering your firm. Having said that, we have some other questions that Rob Munair, who is a Port Council member from the town of Falmouth, would like to address.
Hello, Frank. Hey, Steve. Thanks for joining.
You bet, Rob.
Second group of questions really relate to something that might be an outlier for you guys, and that's have you had any experience in the maritime space?
We've kind of touched on it, Rob, and I'll tell you where. It's not really been something that has shown up except one time, and one time in particular. The late Paul Allen has a company, or had a company, and his family has it now, by the name of Vulcan Inc. And we did a search for Paul for a person to head up all his aircraft, considerable number, plus his yachts. And the yachts were a big deal. I mean, he had the biggest yachts, the number 2, number 3, number 1, number 2 yachts in the country, in the world. And so that part of it was a big thing. Now, I wouldn't consider that specifically maritime because the aviation part of it's there too, but at the same time, we got close.
And we talk to people from the cruise industries and all different areas of travel, both airline and maritime.
True.
For that, presented
And-
candidates on that.
And that was a successful search?
Yep.
That was a success. You're
Very.
talking about the Paul Allen search.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
Cool.
successful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his operation. I've been involved with some of his counterparts or peer group responsible for that, and it's a tricky world,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and this might again, it relates to the maritime thing, but what would be your assessment of the market that we are in terms of being able to find somebody to take this position, in terms of how readily we'll be able to find somebody, how long it will take, what's your, how would you assess the market for this position?
My opinion is your cost of living is the biggest impacting factor in regard to this specific position in the salary range that you have on the opportunity. And that is the big concern. It's not a concern that will keep the search from being successful, but at the same time, it's the major factor. I feel like you're going to be able to find the candidates. I think it depends on how the scope is set in regard to the search. In other words, if you specifically want maritime individuals, if you specifically want people that understand the ferry business, that's one thing. And if it is, if that's what you decide, then that's what you have to be sure and decide. But if you expand that, I mean, you're talking to an aviation search firm. Okay. If you expand into consideration other industries to some degree, that's going to expand your search and give you more candidates to consider. I really, frankly, don't think you'll have a problem in finding your individual, depending on how your search process from your end goes. If you're effective and time relative in regard to your interviews and your movement, and I understand that this is a public process, but if you're effective in those processes, I think you'll be successful in this search. And in regard to that, regardless, I think you'll be successful.
Okay, so just probing that one a little bit further, it's
Yeah.
When we talk about the market for this position, you sort of infer anyhow that the cost of living is a bit of an impediment for us, and that the salary could be a bit of an impediment for us. Can you sort of expand on that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. You've got a salary of 215 to 225. That's the range we understand from Janice. Okay. You're in one of the higher cost of living areas in the country, right? Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah.
Nope. Good.
No.
Well, then you're looking at a salary range that in Houston, Texas would be the equivalent of about $150,000. Okay. Now, for your environment, the opportunity that you offer, what you're looking at is a salary range that's going to, I wouldn't say limit, but it's going to impact the quality of the candidates you're going to get. So I frankly think that's why I'm telling you that's going to be the impacting factor. I don't see any issue in regard to finding your candidates. I see an issue in finding candidates that will meet your qualifications, capability of qualification. In other words, leadership and management strength. And that'll be at the salary range that you've got to offer. And I think that it can be done, but I think it's going to be trying.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
You said what I thought you meant.
You bet.
So
Tried
okay.
to.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. All right, Jim, back to you.
Okay, and over to Nat.
Yes, Frank and Steve, thank you very much. I'm the poor counsel for Nantucket and been doing this for a long time, and appreciate everything you've said, appreciate the other questions. So I guess I would ask you, what is your perception of the challenges facing the steamship today? As currently, I'm sure that you've done a little bit of background checking on what the last year or two has been like. So that would be my first question.
My response to that, Nat, would be that your biggest challenges are to find the right type of individual. In other words, you've got to find the management leadership you need. I'm not sure about if you're talking about the industry per se.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I can tell you exactly what the challenges are at this point. I can tell you that in a process, the search process, we'll know them as well as you do. We'll find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
We'll know them in a heartbeat because the first 5 candidates we talk to, they're going to tell us what your problems are and they're going to tell us in spades. And so from that standpoint, we're going to know them. But to tell you the issues facing the steamship industry right now, that I truly on the beginning, we'll find them out. We don't know them all right now. But
Yeah.
what I do know is leadership and management is probably the strongest issue you've got. It is with every operation, every industry. That's where it comes down to right now. And that's why you're trying to find somebody that can do this job. So I'd tell you that's the biggest issue you got.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I say steamship authority, that's us versus other boat lines. I was speaking directly about this entity. And then follow up would be, how would you tailor the search to attract the candidates, the best candidates that will face these challenges that we have?
Steve, do you want to answer that? Because that gets into
Sure. What I would do is I take a couple different approaches at the same time, right? I'd try and look at the steamship world, but recognize that that's not our specialty, right? So I would be looking at people from the airports or from the airlines, especially in an operational role, but with leadership skills and management, right? And so you're talking a 210, 225, 215 to $225,000 person in your area. But I'd look at the area first, and then I'd kind of move circular out from there. So I'd start with that Hyannis, Boston area, and there are airline people, at least, and airport people up there. But then you spread down the East Coast, and it is expensive living there. But the other side is it's a beautiful place that people want to go, and
Yeah.
so there's going to be a good group of people that will be interested in it with the money you're talking about. It just depends on how broad you guys want to make that scope. If you're saying, hey, this is steamship only, then you're limiting it to a lot of people, but you wouldn't have us involved if you were really saying that. So anyway, what I would do is I would focus first on that region, that Northeast region, and airport and airline leadership people to come in and take it over. And the way I would sell that to them, it wouldn't be very hard, right? You just contact the people that we know, and we know so many people in the industry. We've both been doing this for a long time, but I'd contact and say, hey, look, this is what we're talking about. It's a little different than what you've done in the past, but it's going to take all the same skills. It's in a beautiful location, and you could go up there and really enjoy this job and get your arms around it and have the opportunity to really run this thing. And I think you could attract more up and comers who are operational leaders, which I think the operational piece is the biggest, right? Because you're looking at the same thing Jim said, which you're looking at maintenance and you're looking at logistics and operations on a day-to-day basis with, a fairly complex operation with 10 ships going to 5 different locations. I think that's what you guys had said. And so I think you get an up and comer who could come in there and really have fun with it. I think you could also get somebody who's a little older and who could come from more of a lateral move and come in and say, hey, this is a really great place to be, and I can be involved in the community, and I can be the face of this operation in dealing with everybody and dealing with the community, and build up a real relationship, and really somebody who would just stay in that role. You get somebody who's just going to come in there and who would stay there for good, and maybe even just say, hey, that's someplace I could go, I could live, I could do this, and I could eventually retire up there and really be happy, live a nice
Yeah.
life and really make this thing run.
Yeah.
I think does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's
Good.
you hit on all the points about the location, the desirability factor. There's different moving parts. It's not like they're going somewhere that's remote and has no, it's completely, this is a place that people want to be. That's true.
Well, and
And
that's what we found with Cape Air.
Yeah.
If I can
they're
add
Hyannis,
something,
but still.
if I can add something to that in regard to what Rob asked, that's the way you work with, and Steve brings it up very effectively. That's one of the ways that you're going to be able to work with the compensation situation, is that individuals that want to be in that area and recognize and respect and appreciate it, know it, and want to be there permanently or long term. That's going to be your draw to be able to deal with all aspects of compensation in the position.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, anybody have any follow-up questions before I go into my bit?
Nope.
Rob?
Oh, I'm
No?
fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I think this may actually be more appropriate to Steve, but either of you, Frank or Steve, could jump in. We're going to talk a little bit about the job description, but I really want to narrow it down to what you know or have learned or have thought about in regard to the job that we're looking for as it applies to this particular transportation operation. So given that, what is your sense of the needs or requirements that we have here for a solid, successful candidate?
Jim, what we simply go by your job description. I mean, that's all we've gotten so far. Now we can expand based on our view and opinion, but at the same time, we literally go by your job description and what you said you needed. That's you're the authority. Janice, your organization, you're the authority on this. And from that standpoint, now I can add to that based on what I think. Okay. But at the same time, you've given us a job description. That job description specific tells us what you need to have. And quite frankly, it's outlined it clearly.
Yeah, well,
So-
Frank, I'm trying to actually ask in a perhaps to find out in a roundabout way, what, if anything, have you learned about this particular transportation operation that would impact your view of the type of individual we're looking to hire?
Honestly, we
Please.
want to take, I mean, I always try to be honest, but we want to tailor this to what you want and need. But at the same time, every time our views get involved in this, in other words, our values get involved in this, and we're straightforward and direct. Our values are going to be that you get leadership, that you get someone that can organize and manage and lead your team and achieve the results that you want. And so what we're going to look for is not necessarily going to be different based on your industry or your type of company, because we honestly believe, and if this is a weakness on our part, so be it. We honestly believe that there are specifics in leadership, specific values that are required, entrepreneurial capability, the ability to achieve and get results, the ability to relate and communicate. I mean, simple factors. And
Okay.
so we're going to be reaching out for that.
I guess the reason for my question on that, Frank, and the reason I'm pushing on that is different entities at different stages of their development have different requirements for leadership, whether it's a startup looks for one sort of thing, an long established, successful firm looks for another sort of thing.
Good point.
A company in transition looks for another thing. A company that is rapidly growing looks for something differently than a company that is rapidly shrinking. And that's why I was asking the question. But with that, I guess we're over to Mr. Jones.
Jim, can I respond to that?
Sure.
We don't see you in transition. Now, am I wrong? Tell me, please. But we don't see you in transition. We know you've been there for a considerable amount of time. And so we see you as an organization that's been developed, it's been successful, has particular objectives that we're not quite sure of yet. And as we gain more information from each of you, we're going to know better. But at the same time, we see you as a successful, effective, maybe more, I wouldn't say more conservative or more staid. I'd say an organization that's been effective and successful, and not a new organization by any means, because you're not. So what we look for, again, in regard to those capabilities or those circumstances, are somebody that can lead, manage, communicate, interact, be effective. Those are the things that are continual. Doesn't matter what kind of an operation it is. And even though you might think that if it's a Paul Allen operation, that it's going to be different, it's really not. We did 4 or 5 searches for him, and it's really not. He's still looking for leadership and management capability. Now, maybe there's a drive coming from the top that might differ from one entity to another, but at the same, our personality, and you have to be able to deal with that. But the right individual with the right characteristics and capabilities should be able to deal with any one of those strengths, anyone with strengths of any kind. And if they can do it, they're going to meet your need.
Okay, thank you. At this point, is Mr. Jones.
You've covered a lot of things, but could you tell us a little bit about your approach, finding and vetting your candidates, and a little bit about once you find them, if you have a portal or something you could share with us that we can, read, resumes and things of this nature and stay in touch with you. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Certainly we can. And just to go back to Jim, just 1 minute, Jim, if I come across too hard and direct, don't mean to. I just try to come across sincere. That's
Yeah.
really all I'm doing.
I have no problem with coming across hard and direct.
In regard to our process, it's a very straightforward retained process. But here's kind of the way it works. And I'll give it to you from 2 or 3 different viewpoints, a couple of viewpoints. One viewpoint is this is the way it works. We obtain the search, which means we received a signed retained contract and the initial retainer payment, which is 1/3 up front. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only part that's retained. All 3 parts are retained. The second payment comes after 30 days and is due within 30 days, or your guarantee is in forfeit. Then there's a 60-day payment, the final retainer payment that comes 60 days out. You have a 30-day period on that. And so that's the retained fee process. Once that contract and that initial retainer payment of 1/3 is received, and until then we really do not start, because between us, we're all business people. That's where the leverage comes to do this successfully for you. And that is that once that retained payment is received, then you're on the line the same as we are. And you can thank the retained contract, but boy, we've seen this over years and years. That payment, that's part of it. So we get the payment, we get the contract. And then what we do is we immediately, within 24 hours, if not sooner, we send you a timeline. And that timeline shows milestones. Those milestones go like this. 1, here's the timeline. 2, here's the position specification coming in 5 days. 3, we're going to begin to locate and contact candidates, and we're going to seek them out and consider them for the opportunity. What that means is we're going to reach out to them. And this is where Steve really deeply gets into it. We're going to reach out to them. We're going to contact them. And we do that through 2 sources. One source is our own files, and our files are 14,000 candidates full, and they all pertain to transportation. Majority of them aviation, but they're all transportation. So we reach out to those individuals from 2 standpoints. 1, they are considered to be people that give us names, and they're potential candidates. The second way we go about it, which is where we probably finish most of our searches, is to utilize relationships, LinkedIn, all types of means of communication to get the information out there on a confidential basis that we're seeking out someone for a particular position. Not necessarily named, but if an interest is indicated, that we'll get to that with the potential candidate. Short story, we're in a process of trying to find potential candidates that we can consider. So that information comes to us, including resumes. Steve takes care of that. Once those resumes are received, we analyze those resumes. We'll get 250. And then what we do is we select the best, and we schedule Zoom interviews between me and the candidates. And those interviews occur. We meet those individuals. Those will be 15 to 20 to talk, Bob, particularly about what you asked. That process will bring us down to several potential candidates that we like. And then we'll screen that down to 5. We'll make a short list presentation of candidates. We'll make that to you. The way we do it is by Zoom. We send you a PDF copy of that presentation, and then we go over every one of them, because we want you to know what we know in regard to those candidates, good and bad. We're not going to present them to you if if we think they're bad, but there's always good and bad about each individual. We want you to know why we think that they fit and what we think's good about them. And we are going to go over them in detail and answer any questions that you might have. So timeline process again, contract, the payment, that's one. Second thing is position spec. Third is we do our research. The fourth is we do our interview process. The research process takes about 5 to 10 days. The interview process takes about 2 weeks. And then after that, we begin the preparation of the presentation. All total, we're looking at about a 5 to 6 week process to the point of from receiving the payment and the contract signed to the point of making a formal presentation of candidates to you. Now, once we set that up, and it'll be on paper, in other words, we'll tell you this is the date. We'll meet it. We won't miss it. If we come into any issue that might change any circumstance, we're going to be reaching out to you and talking about it. But we haven't done that in so long, we don't remember it. So from that standpoint, there'll be a presentation of candidates. We review them, discuss them. After that presentation, you determine between yourselves which candidates you want to proceed with. If there are no candidates you want to proceed with, then we go back out and we do the second process again. If that occurs, it's not going to be a week, 2 weeks. It's going to be 4. Maybe we'll make it a little quicker because a couple of the milestones will be foregone. Okay, like a lot of the research, we'll be able to move more quickly. No position spec that has to be prepared. But at the same time, it's going to take some time. But in almost every case, there are going to be candidates that you're interested in. And those candidates, you tell us when you want to interview them. We'll do the scheduling for you if you like. We'll set those candidates up for your interview. And then after that, we're available to discuss, assist in negotiations, whatever you need us to do until the search is done. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think you got it pretty pat.
Bob, that cover it?
Well, just about everything. But hang on for a second here.
Thank you.
I answered everything on my question. There's other questions that these guys have, so I'll just drop off. Thank you for that.
Okay, Rob?
Yeah, back to me, Frank and Steve. So the next part is sort of a spin-off of the process part, and that relates to the chemistry that you establish with both the candidates and with us. And I guess the topic really is about, the question is really about, the ability to convince somebody to be interested in this position by virtue of, the relationship you establish. We've had circumstances where, a great candidate is staring us in the face, but, we wouldn't even dare think to ask them, but a good recruiter can figure out a way to engage that person. And I guess, so that's the sort of the recruiter side, the candidate side. And then there's the relationship with us, the working group. In terms of, the back and forth so that you really understand what our goals are. So the chemistry as it relates to those two directions.
Rob, we're really good at that. And in other words, we're pretty good. Steve and I are pretty good with people. And so from that standpoint, we can look at you, Jim, we can look at Bob, and Nat, we can get a general idea of your style. Not perfect, but we get a general idea of your style, your values, that kind of a thing. And the more we talk to you and the more we interact with you, the better we are at that. And so we're able to get a good idea of what that means to you in regard to the type of person you want to hire. Then we turn it around and we look at the people that are being considered for the opportunity. And we're good at that. We're good at matching your values and your style and what you've said you want to the candidates that come forth. And so we're good at that. It's probably the best thing that Steve does and I do. And so we're able to get to you, the individuals. We're able to seek out and apply your style, their style, put it together, recognize the people that should be a good fit. Now, second thing, which is probably one thing you're thinking about, is being able to get them to you. we've got to have great respect for the operation that we're dealing with, and we do. What we see and the styles that you bring to the table, each one of you, we respect them. And you're business people. You're capable. You know what you want. We can represent that very effectively, and we are able to explain and portray those capabilities to the potential candidates to the point that they will be interested. Another thing is we have a great feel and respect for your locale and the opportunity there. No, it's a beautiful area of the country that you guys live in, and a beautiful area that you represent. We can, where compensation or cost of living is tough up there. We
Okay.
know that what you offer is a beautiful location, a beautiful opportunity, and one that they can really get into. So that balances off everything. We'll be able to get that across to them. There's a lot to sell here. We can do it. I'm not playing games. I mean, I'm just telling you from what I see. I see this as something that can be presented very effectively without manipulating, without trying to sacrifice any honesty. It's something that sells and that presents very effective.
Can I add to that? What I think you guys are really looking for is a face of the operation, right? That can get their hand who can be out there with the community, because you guys have a high net worth individual group, right? But then at the same time, they have to be able to manage the operations, get involved and be involved in a relatively smaller operation, but delegate, get good people in the right spots and then delegate. And then you put the location into it. And I think the right people from the right places will see the location as a good thing, and they'll see themselves in that role, right? So somebody who's wanting to control everything, spend no money, is not going to be your guy. And they're going to see that themselves. At the same time, somebody who's high level, doesn't want to get involved with anything, wants to delegate everything and not have to do really anything except more, delegating it out. They're going to self-select themselves too. And we're going to see those people. We see those people before we even talk to them. Usually we recognize that. It's that sweet spot of somebody who can deal with your community and be really professional, but at the same time, be really good at managing your people and be involved. Does that help? Does that matter?
Yeah, definitely. I think back to the earlier part of the conversation about the challenges of this position, and that's why I think this skill of this ability to connect with candidates is going to be especially important in this case. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
Sure.
Yes,
Mr. Lowe.
yes, sir. Okay. Hi, Steve. Back to you again. And Frank. So just a follow-up final sort of question from me is there you have any successful search stories that could be similar to this one? I know that we've already gone over all the airline stuff, but that could be one of them. Like, you've already given us that one story. And of course you gave us the Cape Air comparison, which is, similar in location, but not the same type of a business, but, still got to come here, still got to move. So just curious if you have any other stories, other successful stories.
The Cape Air search is one that's very pertinent. There are plenty of airline searches at upper levels that we could apply to. I mean, we could tell you, these stories go way back, and the people that we're involved with, you would know, okay, from all the way. But at the same time, one that comes to mind to me, and Steve may have one that he's thinking of differently, but one that comes to mind to me is we did a Terminal 1 Kennedy Airport search, and we put the executive director in to head up that airport, that terminal for Kennedy. And it was a tough search. We brought an individual in that, as it turned out, had been from New York City, grew up in New York City, had the effective capability to manage and lead an organization that was very diverse. And they were doing the search. Terminal 1 was doing the search through a consulting group, not a search group, but a consulting group that they utilized. And it was a multi-layered search process that worked very effectively and very successfully. We came out of it with a great individual who was there for a number of years. So Yeah, I mean, we could go on. We could tell you airline searches for United, Continental, American. It would
Yeah.
bore you to death. I
Yeah.
mean, from Bob Crandall to Frank Lorenzo to you can
Yeah.
go on. We know
Frank-
them all.
Frank had a house in Nantucket.
Yeah.
Small world.
I've been there. Not him anymore. And then, and thank you for that. And then, any unsuccessful searches that you could describe, or remember. And that's
We probably have a few that we would be disappointed with. How about I tell you about one that we had with an operation here in Houston, a company called Team Inc. that was successful, but it was so unsuccessful to begin with. It was awful. It was a search that we did last year, and they wanted an individual to head up a number of their different operations, and they thought they knew exactly what they wanted. What happened is that the information, and this is an interesting story from the standpoint, it gives you an idea of what we run into and what our problems can be. But the information they gave us to do the search on a job description basis was not specific. It was not accurate to what they ended up hiring. So the process went way off. And we ended up doing 4 presentations of candidates. The interesting thing is that I'd be real honest with you. Starting the first presentation we had, the guy that was CEO and I went nose to nose and disagreed violently. And so I think he actually hated me and put me on his no list for Christmas. But the thing about it is that he was so mad at me he couldn't see straight. And that is the way the first presentation went. Second presentation was just about as bad. The third presentation, for some reason, the guy began to get the idea that we really weren't doing anything but what we could. He began to get the idea that his specs were not correct, not by our basis, but by his own. And he began to evolve. By the end of the search, he was happy. By the end of the search, we were successful. We filled the position successfully. They're an absolutely great client. But it's probably the most painful search I've been around in a long, long time. Really was. And it worked out.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your honesty.
You bet.
Okay. Rob, I think you're next. I think. No, Jim is, sorry.
That's all right. I'm happy.
Can I just have a follow-up to that?
Please do.
To Nat's question, and that goes back to the job description and the process you just run. That was a great anecdote, by the way. It was really informative, and obviously you guys learned a lot from it. And I think we have a nice job description, but I'm not convinced that it's a job description that is going to be the tool that you might need. And I guess so I think there's some opportunity, not that there's anything wrong with the list of bullets of all the things this person has to do, but there might be a better way to package it. And I think that's one of the things that we'd be interested to hear from you guys about. Okay, we have these constraints, we have geography, we have cost of living, we have a medium salary. How do we package this in a way that we are going to find that candidate in that sort of set of challenges? And your point about how there was a disconnect on that other story, shows how important it is that we are aligned.
It's the most important thing. It absolutely is, Rob. It's important that we understand you all and we understand your styles, personality, because you make up the operation, the organization. But the thing about it is that position, that job description is paramount. Okay. It's what we utilize to be able to begin and effectively do the search. I'll answer this and I'll turn it over to Steve on this, because what we do is the position specification. It's the second thing after receiving the contract and the initial retainer payment. It's the second thing we do. We get the timeline out. Within a week, we do the spec. That spec, it's a combination of job description it includes all the information on the location. It includes information on the company. That's why we call it a position specification. And so what we do is once we get to that point, which is quick, we put that together, and that does 2 things. One, it expands what you've given us, not incorrectly, but it expands it, adds to it detail we get from you and approved through you to be utilized in that job, that position specification. And so then the second thing is all of a sudden, Rob, what we do is we think of things that we should have thought when we were sitting here talking to you guys right now. And we think, oh, we don't have the answer to that. So we need to know it. And we then ask you questions. And then once that spec is completed, then what we do is we send it back to you for review and approval. And so we're going to use it to present to the candidates. We want to know that you guys approve it, and it's up to your spec, your requirements, and it's good for use. So,
Yeah, thanks. That's great. And
Thank
I got to warn you, Jim is a lot like your CEO there, so you got to watch out. Jim, you're not smiling.
I was gonna say, is that damned with faint praise? So question I'd have for you guys is about the commercial and proposed terms and conditions. Can you explain, the key elements of your proposal to us, and what consideration would you make for people that we might know who we would bring to the process?
Jim, we won't. If you have a candidate, we recommend it to you this way. We have clients that ask us that all the time.
Of course,
I mean, if the first thing is if you've got a candidate, go to them, consider them, do it. If you run across somebody, what I'd want to do if I were you is I'd want to compare that to the candidates we're coming up with, because you contracted us to do the search at that point. And if we are doing that search, and if you're going to consider somebody, you're going to want to compare them to what we have. If you shut us down and say, I'm hiring this guy, this person, this lady. Okay, well, that's the way it goes. Okay. That's your decision. You'll still pay the fees if you do the contract. But at that point, you get no comparison. You get nothing but your hopes and dreams that you got the right individual. And man, every time I ever picked somebody for my own operation, that was my choice. Except for Steve, there was a failure. So I got to tell you, I encourage you. Yeah, that's right. The thing I'm telling you is that if it's me and I'm out there and I'm you, I'm going to want to run that through the people that are doing this search, or I wouldn't put them in the position of doing it and sign a contract with them. And I'm going to get them to compare and bring the best forward. And if it happens to be my guy, then so be it. We have another client, not too far from you all, but down the line a little bit, Dynamic Aviation out of Virginia, pardon me. And that organization, they did about the best I've seen about doing exactly what you're talking about. They had a candidate, they gave them to us. If we came back and said that's the candidate, they knew that we weren't lying. We were not playing games. We were going to find our own. We wanted to present theirs, but we wanted to present ours more. And so we get them all together respectfully, but they're not wasting their time but doing that. They're doing better for themselves.
Got it. Great.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So you want to talk a little bit about your terms and conditions?
Okay. Sure. You want to talk about them?
Do you want to talk about them?
Our terms and conditions?
Yeah.
No. They are, Jim, as they are. They're simple and direct. Okay. There are 3 payments on a fee that we take the middle range. We don't take the top of the salary range. We don't take the bottom one. We don't doubt your range that you set. Okay. We'll go with it. And if we find somewhere down the line, we do another search that you're misleading us on the range, then we're going to call you on it. Okay. Which you would do the same. Okay. Yeah. So we use your range. Okay. 3 payments, first up front, all of them retained. We provide a guarantee as long as you pay your payments within 30 days on each payment. They're paid on time. Okay. We go through our search process. If we don't find anybody, we come back and we do it again. Okay. So we guarantee the process and we keep it up till either you say you don't want to do it anymore, or we found you the individual, and that's always the way it goes. So that is the essence of the situation. There are some other factors involved. One of them is if you do anything on a legal basis, it's in Houston, Texas, we probably can make an adjustment on that, but that's about it. We don't change that the guarantee is going to be 18 months or 24 months. We don't care. We're not respectfully, greatly respectfully, and not arrogantly. We're not going to change the way it's paid. That we've learned by hard mistakes, and we do not change that. So you see what I'm going to.
Not a problem for somebody who said he didn't want to talk about terms and conditions. Just
Appreciate it.
okay. Are there? I'll ask the two of you. Are there any things that you would like to ask us, or are there things that you think we should have asked you that we didn't?
There's not anything that I think you should have asked us. I don't believe. I have one question that you haven't mentioned, and Steve probably has more. But I'm curious about location. Do you care whether this individual comes from your area? I know you probably prefer it, but do you care? And if you don't care, and it's a relocation, what are you prepared to do about relocation costs?
Well, I'll speak as one member of this committee, which is a subcommittee appointed by the board, that I don't care where the person comes from, as long as we get the right person. End of story.
Good.
That's
good.
That's why we're talking to you. We know people in the industry. We know people in our region. We are looking for someone who can take this business, drive it forward, who has the skills, abilities, and experience that we need for this organization.
What about relocation? What about relocation costs?
That's something they're going to have to deal with.
So you're willing to obviously you're going to pay relocation costs. Would it be on a lump sum basis? Would it be, how would you do it?
We are not prepared to tell you exactly how it will be, but we recognize that there's going to be relocation costs if necessary.
And honestly, we can deal with that.
Yeah.
We can deal with that, Jim. We can tell them it's negotiable. Okay. Yeah. I just need to be able to understand where you're coming from.
Yep. Relocation costs are part of the deal. I mean, we expect it of anybody. And as for, where they came from, the majority of people on Cape Cod right now didn't come from Cape Cod. I have 12 generations, and the only people that beat me are the Wampanoags, and they put me to shame. They've been here a long time. But other than that, Cape is pretty much grown up in the last maybe 20, 30, 40 years. So we don't care where they come from.
Good point.
Good.
Go ahead.
I have a couple questions. And Frank may already know this, but I wasn't on the phone calls with Janice. So who was in this before and what happened to them?
Person is in it before is the general manager. His name is Robert Davis. He's still here. He is going to be retiring the end of October. He will, after that, serve as a consultant to the board for another year. But the new general manager will be the new general manager starting when the general manager gets hired and working with that existing structure.
Gotcha. Are there any issues that you guys had with Rob that are going to come up as we talk to candidates and talk to other people? Where we should just know if there's something hidden that people are going to say, oh, I don't want any part of that because whatever. We didn't see anything in our own research on you guys, but it's always something to, that comes up.
No, you're talking about an organization that some of us believe needs to begin focusing in areas that it hadn't in the past. One is technology, which is something that all industries and companies are looking at and struggling with, whether it's technology that's real or artificial. But issues of technology, issues of culture, the workforce is changing, demographics are changing, people's expectations are changing in terms of what they want from a job or how they do a job. So it's it's as I said, different parts of corporate life cycles and different parts of structures evolve over time. We have a fairly mature organization, and we're looking at change going forward. So there is an element of change management, team building, accountability, responsibility.
Good.
Things that were discussed earlier by Frank that, are part of anybody's portfolio, but definitely would, in my view, color the search in terms of what we're looking for. And
That makes total sense.
well, I'd open that up to any other members of this working group, Bob or Rob or Nat, if you want to add to that.
No.
No,
Okay, well, with that, I want to thank you, you Jays, for your time and your attention to what we're looking for. We do appreciate it, and we will be back to you. We have 2 other firms that we're talking to next week, and we hope to be back to you at the conclusion of that week or early the following week with a decision.
We look forward to it, and it's been a pleasure to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, just to let everybody know, there are 10 people in the audience who are not part of the Steamship Authority. And of that 10, 5 of them actually are part of the Steamship Authority. But with that, thank you all. And we are now adjourned.
Yeah,
with a
you don't need a motion to adjourn at this
I was
point.
about to say, with a motion to adjourn, we'll adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
please. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Lowell, aye.
Munir, aye.
Jones, aye.
And Malcolm and I. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.